Warning. This is not a safe space. Leave your bullshit and feelings at the door.
All right, we've been talking about the patriarchy now for 5 episodes, and finally we're going to wrap this thing up with the 6th and the patriarchal culture.
It's time for the most raw and unfiltered experience on the internet. So kick your feet up and grab a cold one. You have just entered the Man Cave. And now, here they are, winners of the self-proclaimed International Greatest Men Alive Award, Brad and Terry.
Thanks for joining us here in the Man Cave. I am Brad.
And I'm Terry.
And make sure to check us out over on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and listen to us on iTunes, Google Play, SoundCloud, Stitcher, and YouTube. But if you want the full no bullshit experience and the ability to win prizes, you have to subscribe to us over on Patreon. We'll talk about that here in a little bit. And I just want to throw out there real quick before we get started with what we're drinking. Hey, if you're listening to us on some of these platforms, please give us a good rating, leave us a review, because that's how we're going to get bumped up when you type it in to look at us. That's what they're going to utilize to bump us towards the top, so you don't have to scroll five pages back to find us.
Right. We are the winners of the self-proclaimed International Greatest Men Alive Award, but we need y'all to tell the world how great we are too.
Yeah, and I think Terry's alluded to it in the past few podcasts about if you go out and listen to the competition that is out there that are quoting themselves as being a man cave, right? The quality of the podcast audio is absolutely garbage.
Like it's done on a cell phone.
Yeah. Or it's not the same kind of a topics we talk about. I think I found one that has a good quality, but he's just strictly sports. That's all he talks about.
Yeah. Yeah, and then there's others that talk about just playing video games and comic books and all. I mean, cool stuff that, we all enjoy from time to time, but I'm not going to base my whole Man Cave podcast off of comic books.
Yeah.
I want to talk about beer. And today, you brought me a beer other than an Oktoberfest.
I know. Maybe I'll go get it. I told you. We'll go into this week, but next week we're drinking bougie up in the Man Cave.
Right.
We're going big time in the Man Cave.
Yeah.
All right, so this week we're drinking the Unita Brewing's The Baba Black Lager.
So I've never heard of this before, but I love lagers, especially black lagers. So I'm digging this. It is delicious.
Yeah, it's really good for a black lager. I like lagers, and I like black ones.
Okay, so we're wrapping up the patriarchy.
And I would like to just say, when we started this 6-part series, I was very, very excited to start this. And now that I'm at the end of it, to be 100% honest with you, I'm glad it's over.
Me too. It was. I think it was great, especially to do it as early as we did in the podcast, and because I think it really cements what we're trying to accomplish with this. Because we are here to just chat and have a good time and talk about all the things a dude would want to talk about. But at the same time, I think that we want to grow this into somewhat of a movement to stop this whole, I don't want to say stop the feminism thing, but to stop the feminism thing, because it's become anti-man.
Yeah. Like, it's okay for a man to do manly things.
Right.
And that's what we're trying to get out there and say, that, just because certain men do manly things does not mean that they're toxic in any way.
Right.
That they are a woman hater or anything like that. It's just dudes naturally want to be dudes.
Yeah.
All right, so getting into the first episode that we talked about, male patriarchy, it was the labor rights that we are stealing from women.
Right, and I've got a clip from that episode that I'm going to play, and then we can talk about it a little bit after.
Go for it. The Pew Research Center was absolutely amazing in this, and there's a few very interesting points that I read about women staying at home and women in general, as far as working and education and all these things, that their research data showed that from 1989 to 2012, the amount of stay-at-home dads has doubled.
Yeah, so I think we made some really good points in this episode, and this was my favorite point that we made when we basically broke down and said that no one is telling anyone that they can't work. That's not a thing. And we addressed the fact that men are becoming stay-at-home dads.
Yeah, by a large amount. And I would just like to point out that, hey, the 60s were a long time ago. Ladies, you've won.
Yeah.
It is no longer a social stigma for a man to stay at home with his children.
Right.
That has been erased. So you crying about it is just that. You are crying about nothing. You have won. Take the victory.
For sure.
All right. Then the next episode, we broke down my favorite topic, the gender pay gap.
I know how much you love it, and I think I've picked out some of our favorite parts of this one. So let's take a listen to our episode, Mind the Gap.
I keep digging into it, and I find this website called payscale.com,
Okay.
and they are all for the gender pay gap, right? And when you go there, it talks about that, and they even have an uncontrolled gender pay gap study where they compared all working women to all working men, right? Women earn 78 cents on the dollar.
Okay.
These guys controlled for one thing.
So the first statistic was with zero variables other than the dollar sign.
Yes,
Okay.
just like the Bureau of Labor Statistics.
Okay.
They controlled for one more thing. That one thing was comparing men and women in similar jobs. Where do you think the wage gap went to? What's the difference?
I mean, the fact that you're bringing it up, I have a good idea
And
of
remember,
where it is.
these guys absolutely 1,000% believe that it's true.
I'm going to say that it is going to contradict what they stand for. That's where I'll put it.
Absolutely does. It closes to only 2 cents. So pretty much and this thought has been thoroughly debunked so many times. To me, it is one of the most intellectually dishonest things that are making the waves at any time. It's been making waves for generations and generations. I remember reading a book that was published back in like the 70s, and they talked about the gender pay gap back then. So this thing comes and goes, but never really leaves. It's kind of like herpes. You're never really going to get rid of the gender pay gap, at least talking about it. But go back to that episode. I believe I took 7 minutes to completely deconstruct it very thoroughly. If you can understand that 7 minutes, you can destroy anybody's theory of having an actual gender pay gap that exists.
Yeah, and I know that it's one of your favorite topics to talk about, but that episode is probably my favorite episode so far of the Man Cave. The way that we really broke that down and just the structure that we had of doing it in such a short amount of time, because usually if you ever look anything up on it, it's a long conversation with so many numbers and all that.
Doesn't need to be.
But yeah, even just the short clip that we played is the only argument you need. And it has one number.
The only argument you really need is, why aren't businesses firing every man and hiring a woman to do it for cheaper?
Right. And we talked about that too. So if you never got a chance to check out that episode, it's definitely a good one.
Then the third point we made, point number 3 of the patriarchy, is the patriarchal state.
Yeah, this one went into a little bit of government and things of that nature, but we have a clip from a little bit of what we talked about on it. So take a listen.
My question is, well, how come there are so many very, very prominent women in politics?
Oh, yeah.
We literally sat here for, maybe 5 minutes before we started the show, and we're like, hey, doesn't matter the party, let's just run down some women off the top of our head.
And I think that I can name more women in politics than I can men. I think I could do that just off the top of my head. Like, I know that it's dominated by men, but I think in terms of them being well known, I think that I can rattle off the top of my head more women than men.
Yeah, but here's the list we came up with. Hillary Clinton, she was a Secretary of State, and she was a presidential candidate last cycle. Condoleezza Rice,
yeah.
Janet Reno, Attorney General. Dianne Feinstein, Nancy Pelosi, Elizabeth Warren, Claire McCaskill, Nikki Haley, Sarah Palin, Jan Brewer, Michelle Bachmann, Mia Love, Sandra Day O'Connor, and that was just us spitballing for less than 5 minutes.
Oh yeah, and if you look at the ratios, it's actually not as dominated as you would think. Yes, there are still the majority men, but what is it? Over 25% of the House of Representatives are women right now.
Yeah, it's something like right around 25% of them are women.
And that is not the fault of a let's say, patriarchal government or state, if you want a woman representing you, vote for her.
Right? Yeah.
You have the right.
You have the right since like around 1920 with the 19th Amendment. You have the right to vote.
And if you look at the statistics, every year more and more women are getting into politics. It is ever increasing.
What will they do when when they shift it? Let's say 30, 40 years from now, and it's a majority women. All right, so like we pointed out, that there's really no privilege that is extended to men from the government that is not extended to a woman. It doesn't exist.
Right. And we went into, on that episode, which we were talking about right there in that clip, was the government officials and elected officials. And if you want a woman representing you, go vote. Vote for her.
Everybody gets a chance to vote.
And in the episode, we also talk about how the number of women in politics and the representation that they have is been steadily increasing for quite some time now, pretty much since they were ever allowed to be elected officials.
Yep.
So I think that point specifically is just completely null and void.
They're winning. They just don't know they're winning.
Yeah.
They just don't know. And I would like to say there is one privilege that, I was wrong. There is one privilege that's extended to a man from the government that is not extended to a woman.
Ooh, tell me. I can't wait to take advantage of it.
Selective service. You get to be drafted when you turn 18.
Oh,
wait. That's not a privilege.
Maybe we should make a case for some equality and have that be a requirement for women too.
Well, then, would they be as violent as men? Which leads us into the 4th episode of male violence.
Oh, yes, it does. And here's a quick clip from that episode.
And I think the problem that really they're wanting to focus on is you have a bunch of men or boys, realistically, who don't know how to properly be violent at the right times, right? Mm-hmm. Domestic violence is not the proper use of violence.
No, not at all.
And so why? Why do we have men, we will call them, we'll use the air quotes, why do we have men who don't know how to do that? What is the root cause? I have an answer, but
I'm honestly not sure. And the whole time you've been talking, I've been pondering it, trying to think like, what could the possible cause be? Because domestic violence is, I don't want to say it's a prevalent thing that happens extremely often, but it does happen, and it happens everywhere. It's not restricted to one area. It happens everywhere, and I can't put my finger on why it necessarily happens.
I think I can.
Okay.
A fatherless home.
So we talked about a lot in this episode.
We did.
And we touched on things such as the military and how men are more inherently violent. Therefore, they serve that role of being inherently violent by being frontline troops for the military. I shared a personal experience where I used violence for good in the defense of someone who needed help, and then we went into domestic violence. And domestic violence, we definitely agreed that it is mostly male on female. Domestic violence is primarily how it happens, but we kind of broke down why we think that's the case.
Yes. Easy stuff. If you go listen to it, I think we made a really strong case. But moving on to last week's episode, which was number 5 in the patriarchy, which is the patriarchy of sexual relations.
I loved this episode.
We went from straight like doom and gloom, death, to let's go fuck.
Yeah, and I think everything about it, from the title of it to just the way that we broke down this topic, was, I think we took a much different approach to it than a lot of other people that have tried to break this down, because we turned some points around to the other side, and we broke it down in a really different way. So here, take a listen to a clip.
Is this just an argument that men come too fast?
Here's the way I look at it. This is an argument that women have it tough. Right, that's basically what the argument is. In the sex department, women have it tough. But, wow, what pressure on a man. Isn't it so hard to be a man and know how you are going to be judged on your performance, and the pressure that is placed upon you to perform well, how terrible.
What?
I've turned the whole thing around.
Oh, you have to finish.
Well, no, not that. But you are expected to last a certain amount of time.
Oh, yeah.
And that's so much pressure. I don't know I don't know what's going to happen.
What if she's just that good?
Yeah.
That you can't last.
She should be prideful.
Prideful of the 10-second man.
Yes, the best 10 seconds of my life. So we were a little comical with some of this. But I think the main point here is that in the sex department, women hold all the power.
All of it. They are... You're oblivious if you're a woman and you don't know that you hold all the cards.
Oh,
every single... You have the whole deck and then a few more on top of that.
Yeah, and the episode was great all the way through in the way that we broke it down, like I said before. And we go into some other things, but it's definitely worth the listen. But this week, we use it as a little bit of a recap, but it is the sixth branch of this is the culture
right.
of the patriarchy.
And I think all the reason we did it as a recap is because I think they're going to basically say all 5 of the previous things make the culture.
Right, and I see it as almost a catch-all. So
yes. Anything you do that could, they can throw it into, well, that's just part of the culture.
Right. If it doesn't fit into the other 5 categories, well, it's just the culture of the patriarchy.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that by debunking the other 5 points, we successfully debunk the fact that there is a patriarchal culture.
No, yeah, it doesn't exist. And I would just like to admit one thing, by the way.
Okay.
I come too fast.
Yeah. I don't come at all.
But speaking of blowing your load, man, you blew your load this week, 2-0.
So I may have blew my load in a good way for my picks, but my fantasy football opponent blew his load all over me. I got demolished.
Wait, I thought this was the guy that didn't update his team.
Last second. Last second he came in.
Pro.
Yeah, he came in.
He probably made you think, oh, rookie. This rookie isn't even going to update his team.
Yeah.
And then he came in with that last second and got you.
Now, when the week started, predicted points mean nothing in fantasy football. Because at the beginning of the week, it tells you how many you're predicted to get. It means nothing. But I was predicted to stomp this guy. And this was after he had filled his roster. So he filled it, and I was still predicted to stomp him. But my players just didn't perform, man. Yeah. So it was just I had some good players on bye, some other players that just did not perform whatsoever, and it was so bad that I literally changed my fantasy team name to Positive Attitude because I got beat that bad to where I need to let people know I still have a positive attitude about this league. But we'll see what happens this week. I got Matt Ryan on bye and a couple other really big names on bye, so I'm not counting on winning this week, but like I said at the beginning of the season, week 7 and 8 were going to be hard for me because that's where the majority of my starters are on bye. Yeah. So we'll see what happens. I'm not really counting on this week to do much, but we'll see what really happens next week is when my season kind of starts over.
Yeah.
But we got some picks, and man, the Monday night game. Let's talk about that first.
Okay.
We've got the Patriots at the Bills.
Ooh.
Now, the Patriots are 5-2, Bills are 2-5, right? But I wouldn't count the Bills out completely. The Patriots have a pretty good offense, as they have for a while, but the Bills have a pretty damn good defense at the same time. The issue with the Bills is they cannot move the ball on offense. So where the Patriots don't have the strongest defense, it's definitely going to be strong enough to stop the Bills in their tracks because the Bills can't do shit on offense. So we'll see what happens, but I'm going with my gut on this one and everybody else's gut, and the Patriots are going to win Monday night.
Oh, yeah.
And then the next game I want to talk about is I think it's the game to watch this week, and that's the Ravens at the Panthers. So both, the Ravens are 4-3, Panthers are 4-2, two really good teams. The the Panthers, Cam Newton, awesome player, always going to make plays on offense, but he's up against the best defense in the league. So I think it's going to be a really exciting game to watch. I think that if the Panthers can score some points on the Ravens defense and then shut down their passing game, they got it. They got it all day. So I'm going to take the Panthers over the Ravens. And I know my buddy Zach with a K is going to be pretty pissed off that I'm rooting against the Ravens because I know he's a big Ravens fan. But I'm taking the Panthers not only because I think they can win, but kind of just stick it to him.
Let's just stick it to the patrons as often as we can.
So we got Panthers and Patriots this week. I'm going for another 2-0.
All right.
But I know that you got your basketball coming up.
I do.
So I'm ready to hear it.
So yeah, basketball is starting up on realistically on November 6th is the first day. When you look at that day, I'm on ESPN.com right now, and I believe I counted like 40 or like 100. There's over 100 games on November 6th. And I will break down some of the games because there's already a couple doozies lined up. So before I go into a couple of doozies that are lined up, a couple other things about basketball, right? The top 25 has already been put out for the AP. Kansas at the top, Kentucky, Gonzaga, Duke, Virginia, Tennessee,
It's
Nevada,
always the same names every year.
North Carolina, Villanova, and Michigan State round out the top 10. But realistically, I'd say it's very competitive for number 1 and 2 right now. It was probably the most competitive it's been in quite a few years, with Kansas and Kentucky really being top echelon. But I'm telling you right now, while they're only at number 4 and they're put at number 3 in the coaches poll, Duke, I think, is going to be just as tough to beat as Kansas and Kentucky, if not tougher to beat. And here's why. When you look at the recruits that they had come in, they had, out of the ESPN Top 100, they had number 1, 2, and 3.
Ooh, wow.
With R.J. Barrett, Zion Williamson, and Cam Reddish. I'm going to tell you, Zion Williamson, he was number 2 player, but he is a monster. He's 6'6", power forward, 272 pounds.
Wow.
Like, there's nobody in the top, looking at it right now, top 25, that the closest person to is 240. He's got the top by 35 pounds.
Wow.
He's going to be a monster to deal with. There's nobody that's going to be down low in almost all of college basketball. He is going to be the face of college basketball this year.
And with that being brand new talent coming in, watch them next year and the year after also.
Well, the issue with college basketball I see right now, it's not watching them for the next year because they're always one and done.
Yeah,
that's the culture now. Is just a one and done culture.
I do wish it would take almost a college football approach to where they had to finish school and do things of that nature.
Yeah, but it's all about the money.
Yeah.
All right, so looking, like I said, beginning November 6th is the first game, and there's like 100 to 140. I think I counted maybe 140 games on that day.
That's crazy.
Yeah, everybody, basically everybody plays on November 6th, no matter who you are. You're playing a game.
That's awesome.
All right, so, and you would think, like, it's early in the season. It's going to be, it's just cupcakes. And I would say, I think it's out of, if there was 140, 136 of them are. The 4 of them, I cannot believe they got the matchup this quick, right? So you have at 4 p.m. on ESPN that day, number 1 Kansas versus number 10 Michigan State.
All right.
Already, out the gate. And then at 6:30 p.m., we have number 2 Kentucky versus number 4 Duke, which is just, it blows my mind that we're already having a game like that in the first game of the season.
Does that not normally happen? Is it usually all of them are up against like way lower ranked teams?
Cupcakes.
Yeah?
Yeah, it blows my mind. And I actually think, and both of these games are played at the Baker's Life Fieldhouse in Indianapolis, so they're on neutral courts. They're not. That's very exciting. Yeah, to have those 4 caliber of teams going against each other that early in the season blows my mind. It's definitely going to start separating people out, because if you're in the top 10 and you take a loss as even if you take a loss against a ranked team, it doesn't matter. You're going to drop down.
Yeah.
So, and I think Duke has a very competitive ability to knock Kentucky down. And if they knock Kentucky down, I think they go to number 1.
Really?
Yeah, I think they should.
Okay.
I think the difference between number 1 and number 4 right now is it's just so close. Like I said, with those 3 freshmen coming in that they have, Duke is going to, if they can get all their shit in one sock, which I know Mike Krzyzewski with Duke can do that.
Right.
They're going to be just mashing people this year.
And the neutral courts thing, that's gonna,
yeah,
that means it's not playing into any team's favor at all. So
yeah, I mean, the neutral court would play a little more into Kentucky's favor just because it's in Indianapolis compared to Lexington.
Okay.
They're from Lexington, and then you have Chapel Hill in North Carolina for Duke.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, it's still a neutral court. It's not sitting like, the Cameron Crazies for Duke or anything like that.
Yeah, they don't have that sixth man in the crowd,
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's nothing to do it. So the next thing I think I was talking to you earlier today about
was Halloween. It's coming up.
Yeah. This is the last episode you'll hear before Halloween.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I have young kids.
Right.
And it just seems to me, when you compare my childhood growing up versus what they have available for Halloween, it's very strange to go Halloween shopping with them nowadays. Because when I go to places like Party City and stuff like that, I mean, they have their typical kids' costumes.
Mm-hmm.
But it's almost like they've taken anything and turned it into, like, the sexy witch.
Yeah.
The sexy nun. The sexy bus driver.
Right.
Like,
I don't mind.
I mean, a dude who's 21 through 27, like, this is probably one of the most happy times of the year to go somewhere and, watch the sexy dentist downtown drinking,
or girls that just dress up as prostitutes. It's like, what are you for Halloween? I'm a prostitute. Oh, well, wonderful.
Creative. And then the other thing that I've noticed in the last few years that definitely was not something when I grew up, and maybe it's just because I was from the middle of nowhere,
mm-hmm.
but the whole idea of cultural appropriation and Halloween, I don't understand it. Like, do you remember the day when we used to look at people who traveled the world and experienced other cultures as being cultured?
Yeah.
Like, man, you've been to all these places and you've eaten, you went to China and ate Chinese food, or you lived in Japan and ate their food. And it was people we looked to, like, man, you've tried all. Man, I want to be you because you've been around the globe doing all kinds of cool things. But now, I mean, isn't that cultural appropriation for me to go to Japan and eat their stuff?
I bet you there's people that get pissed off about, maybe not that fact, but, what if you were to dress up as a samurai?
Oh, that's immediate immediate cultural appropriation, supposedly. But
right. And I think that'd be a pretty cool Halloween costume.
Yeah, I mean, we're realistically dressing up because why are kids dressing up as ninjas? Why? Because they think it's fucking cool.
Yeah.
They think ninjas are cool. They think your culture is frickin' cool.
Yeah, why get mad at that?
I don't understand why anybody would get mad at that nowadays. That we are literally praising how awesome your culture is.
Yeah.
So am I just limited to being like a cowboy, or I mean, what's the limitations with this? What can a kid be nowadays who's just can't be Moana? A couple years ago, they complained about that.
You could be a Fortnite character.
Oh, I bet you could.
Yeah.
I guarantee if you went on PartyCity.com right now, you could be all kinds of Fortnite characters.
Yeah. You'll probably see a ton of those costumes, too.
It's so stupid.
Yeah. I mean, I've never played the game, so I don't know. But
I remember Party City didn't exist where I was at.
No?
My parents would never take me there.
You know what happened if we went to Party City right now? It would look like a tornado hit that place.
No. Tornado people, and they've been. We go to Party City for Halloween costumes most of the time, and they are very organized.
Yeah.
With but I bet you they do at least 80% of their business.
I don't think, but back on topic of the whole cultural appropriation piece of it,
going all over the place.
I don't think that has really taken off as an issue, at least on Halloween. You have one free day a year. It's like the purge for cultural appropriation.
The only reason I brought it up was because I was reading today, but I forget what college it was, and they were complaining. They sent out their student body president and all this stuff sent out an email making sure, hey, just be aware that making fun of other people,
It's not making fun.
They take it as it is, You're dressing up as them. It's my culture is not a costume.
Isn't what is it? Imitation's the most sincere form of flattery.
Yeah. Jinx.
Okay, I guess. What's your point, man? Like, anyway,
I fully authorize anybody to dress up as a cowboy.
I fully authorize anybody to dress up as me. I think that'd be
yeah.
cool.
Oh yeah. Who are you? I'm Terry Jacobs.
Hell
Wait.
yeah.
Oh. But now, and another question, just as we wrap this up. Do you think in 2018 we'd be able to make the movie Tropic Thunder?
No.
Isn't that crazy to think about, though? Because that movie's not that old.
There's one reason why we wouldn't be able to make
I'm just
that
a
movie.
dude who's playing a dude being another dude.
Right, because you have a white guy pretending to be a black guy.
Yeah.
If it was the other way around, it'd probably be all right.
Damon Wayne, the Wayans brothers did that in White Chicks. It was perfectly acceptable for them to do that.
I love that movie.
Not only did they dress up as a different race, they dressed up as a different gender.
Well, that's okay.
Which one? Only one of them's okay now? Or
you can be whatever gender you want. We talked about this last week.
I know, but can you be whatever? You can be whatever race you want too.
Yeah, you can identify however you'd like.
However I want.
Yeah.
Holy crap! But I mean, isn't that the craziness of how far we've come? Because those movies aren't really that old.
No.
And that now, I used to think I used to go back and watch things like Blazing Saddles and be like, obviously, there's no way we could make Blazing Saddles today.
No.
And there's no way, back in 2004, that we could make Blazing Saddles in 2004.
You could make it, but it wouldn't be in theaters, and no one would ever advertise it.
They would riot.
Oh, yeah.
They would burn the theater down.
Yeah.
But in just a short amount of time, we have went from not being able to make Tropic Thunder because Robert Downey Jr. dresses up as a black man.
Yeah.
Mind-blowing. Mind-blowing how far we've come in that short amount of time to be just that overly sensitive about it. I don't get it.
Yeah, me neither.
All right, so hey, don't forget to follow us over on Facebook at the official Man Cave Podcast, over on Twitter at the Man Cave 14, and on Instagram at the Man Cave Podcast, and on YouTube. But for the full no safe space, no bullshit experience, check us out and subscribe to us over on Patreon. We have a lot of deals right now going on for just $1, right? Only $1. You are going to get access to the After the Show, get a piece of ass. Mm-hmm. You are going to get the Man card right now, which is usually reserved for those who do the $5.
Right.
For only $1, you get that as well, and you're going to get entered in to win the U-Keg 64-ounce stainless steel growler, and that's going on for only a few more weeks. You got to get, if you want to get in on the drawing, you got to get in with the next few weeks.
Yeah.
All right, that thing's $140 pressurized growler. Make it like you have it on tap at your own home.
Yeah, I can't wait to use one.
I know.
Yeah.
Soon.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and then only for $5 a month, you're going to get entered in to win all the prizes. You get exclusive access to special podcast episodes and exclusive access to tell us what you want us to talk about and give us all kind of feedback on every podcast. But hey, you don't have to go home, but you can't stay with us. We'll see you next time here in the Man Cave.
Don't let the door hit you on the way out. Any real man would follow us on Patreon for exclusive content and prizes at patreon.com/The Man Cave Podcast. The Man Cave. No safe spaces, no bullshit.